you eat for breakfast? It is a question I get all the time. So I'm going to answer that in today's video. Stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 3 super easy recipes to get your morning off to a great start. Hey, Lisa G, founder of YourTastyLife.com, and today we're cooking up breakfast. I get asked all the time, what do you eat for breakfast? Or I also hear the comment, I don't have any time for breakfast. Well, guess what? I don't have time either, but I make time for breakfast, and I'm going to show you how I do it. What do I eat? Well, hey, I do simple, easy stuff. I eat a lot of eggs, believe it or not. So, what do I do with my eggs? I'm going to give you 2 ways to make hard-boiled eggs. Now, I know, well, I shouldn't say no. Making hard-boiled eggs is really simple, but I digress on saying that because a lot of my clients I work with through the years, they just really struggle making hard-boiled eggs. They come out too green or they're not hard enough, so let's clear all that up right now. So there's 2 ways you can do it. The way I do it is I do the traditional method on the stove. So make a single layer of your eggs in a pan, or a pot I should say, and this one holds perfectly 7 eggs. So you're gonna put a single layer of the eggs in there, and then you're gonna cover it with about 1 inch of water. What you're gonna then do is put it on the stove at a high temperature. Once it hits a boil, remove the pot from the heat and put a lid on it. Then for large eggs, you let it sit for about 12 minutes. Leave it alone, just let it sit with the lid on. For extra large eggs, you might let them sit in the water for about 15 minutes. Then what you do is you bring it over to the sink, you dump out that water, and you put cold water immediately on them, and that shocks the egg so it stops the cooking process. You will get perfectly cooked eggs every time. The other way to make hard-boiled eggs that is super easy as well is taking a 12-cup muffin pan like this and put an egg in each of the 12 tins, and you put that in the oven at 325 and you let them bake for a half hour. I know, it's crazy. Who knew? You could bake hard-boiled eggs. That will also give you a nice result every time. 325 for 30 minutes, you can't really goof that up. What else do I do with eggs? Well, I like to make an egg bake, and I do this, for example, in my case on a Sunday. I get all my prep done for the week, and one of the things I often make is an egg bake, so I'm going to share with you how to do that. So what I'm going to share with you is my Rise and Shine egg bake. It's a staple in my household. It can soon be a staple in yours. You can essentially make this a dozen different ways. So how I'm telling you today is a way to get started, but feel free to add in different vegetables, different meats. If you care for adding cheese in it, you could do that. There's a lot of different combinations you can do. It's a basic recipe that you could certainly adjust to your liking. So what do? Well, I have an oven preheated at 350 degrees, and you're gonna take a 9x12 pan, or I like to use casserole dishes like this, and you're just gonna coat it with some coconut oil. We do that so the egg bake doesn't stick. I found that out the hard way. If you don't spray things, it doesn't come off as well. We're just gonna set that to the side. And what we're gonna do is take a dozen eggs and we're gonna crack them in our bowl here. I'm using some organic pasture-raised eggs. When it comes to egg quality is really important. You'll see more information on that at YourTastyLife.com. But it's important what eggs are fed. And if you look at these eggs, you're gonna notice how thick these shells are. I've actually cut myself on eggshells, believe it or not, because they're so, they're a tougher shell. They're, you know, you can cut yourself. And if you notice, the yolks are also very bright yellow. So they're eating the things they're supposed to be eating, the grubs and the worms and all the things that a chicken is supposed to be eating, versus being fed a bunch of grain and soy and corn that they're not succumb to normally eating. So we're gonna go ahead and plop through a dozen eggs. Depending on your bowl size, you might want to use a little less. So sometimes if I make a smaller one, I might only make 8 or 10 eggs. So maybe you're making one a little different for someone in the family who doesn't like certain vegetables. You could make a few of them and pop them in the oven at the same time. Dozen eggs in the bowl. Then what we're gonna add is, again, a variety of different produce items. So I like to put some spinach in there, a good handful, about a cup or so. And then what I'll do is just real roughly kind of chop it. I am not a professional chef by any means. I am a simple home cook, and you will notice that's what all of my recipes are. Simple, real ingredient recipes. I'm gonna kind of put this off to the side for now. I don't want that much in there, about a cup or so, a good handful of the spinach. Then I like to use some fresh mushrooms. And again, just kind of a rough chop in there. You wouldn't even necessarily need to cut them. I just like them a little bit smaller. So we're gonna go ahead and put the cup of mushrooms in there. You can use any type, baby bellas, whatever suits your fancy. Then we're gonna take a medium onion and we're gonna go ahead and chop this up. Put that in there. We want this in a little bit smaller pieces. So we're gonna dice this, in other words. You could also use a red onion if you prefer, but I tend to stick with the white onions. Unless I have no white onion, then guess what? It becomes a red onion. And I use that puppy and put it in the bake. So again, very exchangeable ingredients here. I'm gonna try to get away. We're gonna stick that onion in the mixing bowl here. Then we're gonna use some green pepper. Whatever's in season, whatever your local produce guy has or your farmer's market. Green pepper, red pepper, yellow, they're all wonderful, they're all great. So again, you're just gonna chop this, and I like to chop it in little slices, and then I'll go sideways to make it diced. Green pepper, did you know it has more vitamin C than an orange? So it's very nutritious. It's a great ingredient to include when we can. It's also great to snack on, munch on. This way here, we're putting it in our sunrise egg bake, first thing in the morning. All right, so we're gonna toss the green pepper in. Then we have, whoops, use the spinach up already. Then we're gonna use a tomato, and you could simply just dice this and throw it in there. What I've learned is I kind of like to actually seed it, so I will get around it and get those seeds out. The seeds can make the egg bake a little watery, and so I'll just pop those out and try to get most of those seeds out. The vegetables in here can add some water consistency, if you will, to the egg bake, so that it has more of that firmer egg texture that we're used to. I've kind of learned I like taking the seeds out of the tomato. And I'm saying this is kind of a smaller tomato. I might actually grab another one and put another one in there. I like to put about a cup of tomatoes in there. So again, we're just gonna kind of rough chop this very quickly, get that in there. When you're prepping this on a Sunday, what you could be doing at the same time is if you wanted some hard-boiled eggs for the week, you could have those going on the stove while you're putting this together. And then you have eggs for your salads, for example, or if you wanted to have hard-boiled eggs in the morning. So, all right, then we are left with some cilantro, some fresh cilantro. If you've never cooked with cilantro, oh, I love cilantro. I am a cilantro nut. So anywhere I can get to put it in, I like putting it in. It's a detoxifying plant. It is so good for our livers. It's great for our body. It smells good, and then it's gonna give it a nice taste to the egg bake. So about a cup, about a fourth cup of the cilantro. Yes, you could put more in if you care for it. Just, you know, it adds a little flavor with it. And then the last thing that we're gonna do is we're going to add some meat of choice to this particular one. So what I'm using is an uncured Black Forest ham. It's gluten-free. Besides the celery salt, no nitrates added. So this is what I'm using for the ham. I get questions a lot, well, what kind of meat products are you using? This one happens to be Applegate Organics. So depending on how much meat you want to throw into your egg bake, my husband kind of likes a little meatier egg bake, so I'm going to go ahead and just put this whole package in, and I'm just going to dice it as well. And once this is diced up, we'll toss it in, and then we're just going to go ahead and whip up all these ingredients in our bowl. So we got the dozen eggs, we got all the produce, we got our meat, we got some cilantro in there. The last thing we're going to do is add a little dash of salt and pepper. A little pepper, a little dash of salt. Then we're gonna mix this up. So we have all of our ingredients in here, a dozen eggs, the veggies we wanted, the ham. So we're gonna mix this up. I tried once to make this just mixing it all in the casserole dish to save a dish of, you know, cleaning. And it doesn't really work out too well because you obviously sprayed this with the coconut oil beforehand. So it's better just to mix it in a separate bowl. It only takes you a second here to, you know, one extra dish, but I'm all about less dishes, and I'm all about the easy meals. So we're just gonna make sure the egg incorporates all the ingredients here. And this is gonna provide a really big, nice casserole. So, you know, this you can keep after you bake it in your refrigerator for 5 days. You know, I've made it on Sunday, and I would say the last I've ever had it was on a Thursday, but depending on the size of your family, it might not last that long. So what we do then, we're just gonna take our wonderful bake here, and we just dump it in the dish. Get all the yummies out of there. We don't wanna miss anything. And go ahead and stick all that goodness in there, okay? And once we do that, that is it, folks. Then we just place this. I just kind of spreading it around nicely in there. We take our egg bake and we stick it in our preheated oven at 350 degrees. And it's gonna take about 50 to 60 minutes, depending on each individual's oven, but roughly it takes 50 to 60 minutes. In my oven, I usually leave it in for an hour. And you know it's done when you insert a toothpick in the middle of it and it comes off, you know, without any egg mixture stuck to it. So that's it, folks. That is a sunrise egg bake. We're gonna move on next to another quick and easy breakfast idea.